Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Druid class, and there was a lot of footage of this class that came out over the years, and we just never really got to see it for the last year since the game came out. So let's go back and take a look at some of the footage. I'm surprised that the Druid never came out like earlier in the release of the game, because the class looked like it was more or less finished in the footage that they released originally, because they were really showcasing the Druid a lot with the other classes that were initially released with the game. So first off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it, helps me out. Hit 1,400 subs recently, now we're going to go for 1,500, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in here. So as you can see kind of from the tooltips, it looks like there's a lot of different sort of like, shouting abilities maybe that the bear has.
Hi, I'm John from
that, we can see a tornado or like wind-based skill, some
you
lightning
pick from one of 12
skills. Looks like there's maybe a
Each
werewolf
character
skill
has a
on the
combination of
tooltip
primary
there.
attributes that they focus on. Today, we'd like to show off a character who specializes in strength and intelligence, the Druid. In human form, the Druid is a spellcaster who channels the fury of nature on the battlefield, a walking natural disaster.
The notable thing about this class is it is the first strength int class that we're getting.
But get up closer,
We
you'll
have
find out
not
that the
had
Druid
a
also
strength
focuses
int
on
class since the game
You can
launched.
transform yourself into one of several wild beasts. Today, we want to show off the bear form. Transformation in PoE 2 happens automatically when you use a bear attack. Use Bear Maul and your character will transform into a bear, into a meaty swing. Use a spell and your character transforms back into a human and casts it. Hitting enemies with the Bear's Maul attack will build up rage, which increases your attack damage, so your bear gets stronger with every attack.
So something interesting here, it looks like the weapon that he's using, and again, this could have been in an earlier build before they've made changes, but it looks like he's using a quarterstaff, which is kind of interesting, or some kind of staff. So unless they're implementing like a third staff type, that's kind of interesting to me, because the abilities are based off of your weapons. So are the caster abilities based off of the staff that he's using, or like I said, is this just an earlier build of the game, or is there a different weapon he's using when he transforms into the bear, sort of like like a primalistic like transformation weapon. You can see here too, this was way back. They still had 5 flasks back in this build of the game.
You can see the glowing runes that indicate rage on your back. Have a lot of weak enemies to take out? This is where you probably want to break out your rampage. Let out a roar and stampede over all enemies in your path, slamming the ground with your paws. The initial roar generates rage, and then the rage is consumed as you charge along. You can use rampage by itself to travel a short distance, or do some mauling first to build up some rage and travel a significant distance. Now, while the bear is big and strong, this isn't a pure strength class. You don't have as much armor as a warrior would have. In order to protect itself from larger packs, you might want to consider a skill like Furious Slam. This skill is all about stunning rather than damage, so it's quite useful if you're mobbed by smaller monsters and just need to get out of there. Of course, like any PoE 2 character, you can always use a dodge roll to get out of danger. Since the bear is the slowest of the Druid's forms, making sure the dodge feels reliable and can get you out of any situation is paramount. When you dodge an animal form, your character instantly transforms back with no time penalty, so that you can get out of the way. You can even interrupt a mistimed transformation halfway through. Of course, doing this will mean you pay the slight time cost of having to transform back again, but it's certainly a lot better than dying. Something interesting about this skill.
I wonder if it's really gonna play that sort of like bloody animation every time you transform, because as you're rolling around canceling the animations, it looks kind of
It's
off.
faster to use if you're already standing up. If you're on all fours when you use Furious Slam, then the bear has to stand up first before slamming back down. But Use Maul first, and the bear will stand up as you swing, which has no time penalty. Then follow up with Furious Slam, and your bear will quickly slam down. Much more efficient. Next up, I want to talk about Ferocious Roar. Ferocious Roar.
Alright, so let's look at these items here real quick. Now that we're much more familiar with them, so it doesn't look like... I mean, I guess he has a spirit amulet. There's the potions that we know have changed. It's kind of interesting looking at those gems in his inventory. They look a lot more interesting than what the gems look like now. It looks like gold actually used to take up inventory space, and then that looks like some of those support gems look like, you know, directly from PoE 1. So I think that's maybe a multi-strike, maybe fortify, and then I think that's increased duration. So that's kind of interesting to look at here. This may, you know, I'm curious if we'll get to see like this, them open up the skill
gem
tab. Okay, so there we've got the skill gem. So looks like the sockets were like directly. It looks like maybe back in this point in time, the gems were not based off of your
allows
weapons.
You to take any Warcry skill that another class like the warrior might use and allow you to use it as a bear. I'm going to take
the
seismic.
Here, wait, let's go back. I just want to look at this. Okay, so we've got Lightning Storm. And it's interesting because the sockets actually have colors for the supports, which I think they must have removed that. I do like the look of these skill gems way more. So, okay, we've got a Summon Wolf. So he can play as like a summoning build. We've got the Rampage, Furious Slam. We saw those. We saw Lightning Storm. I'm almost wondering if maybe the meta skill gems don't rely on your weapon type.
I'm going to take the Seismic Cry gem and socket it into Ferocious Roar. You can actually socket more than one Warcry and use...
So Seismic Cry, okay, so that counts as a Warcry, so that's interesting. So maybe there will be some synergy between the warrior class that's based around Warcries. Like maybe you'll be able to make some use out of that with some of these shape-shifting abilities to create
Seismic
a
Cry
build.
pushes enemies back and has some stun chance. But the reason we want to use it is for a mechanic called Exerted Attacks. If there are any heavily stunned enemies in range of the Warcry, then your next slam skill will be powered to do double the number of slams. First, I use Furious Slam to stun these enemies. Next, I follow up with Seismic Cry and get the Exerted Attack. And then I slam again. See how 2 slams triggered? So, that's all well and good, but how about we try that again using Rampage? First, get a bit of Rage, slam to stun the enemies, Seismic Cry to get the exert, and then Rampage around to do insane amounts of damage. So we've covered some of the bear side of the Druid, but how is he as a spellcaster? Now of course we want to maximize the amount of time you spend in your animal forms, so most of the spells targeted at the Druid tend to be things that last a long time or provide tactical options on the battlefield. The first and probably simplest of these is Lightning Storm. Cast it on the ground and you get an area where monsters are continuously struck by bolts of lightning. The bolts don't do much damage, but they shock monsters, which is a debuff that increases all damage on them, meaning it's a great spell to use before going in as a bear.
So something I'm curious about, like if you wanted to make a pure caster druid, would you utilize some of the druid abilities and then switch over to you know, like a staff to cast some, you know, more regular type spells? Because it sounds like if these druid abilities last a long time and provide solid bonuses, like that could potentially be an option for a build if you're wanting to not utilize the
To increase your damage, but
shape-shifting
as I mentioned
forms.
before, the bear form of the druid could use some defenses as well. The bear in particular is the slowest attacking of the druid's forms. He hits hard, but if he gets swarmed too much, it will result in your death. That's why Tornado is so useful. Tornado sucks monsters in, allowing you to split up packs and deal with groups separately, or pin monsters in place and set up combos with your other skills. The Tornado doesn't really move big monsters much, so you can actually use it to separate a boss from its minions too. The Druid also has the ability to summon animal companions. This is another really useful defense because wolves can take aggro from you, keeping monsters away. In addition, the wolves howl as they are summoned, putting a temporary debuff on enemies that makes them more vulnerable to critical strikes, and giving you a reason to resummon them in combat. The last druid spell we're going to talk about today is Volcano.
So if that still functions the same way, it seems like your wolves are kind of intended to just die and like constantly die and be resummoned.
You can cast it quickly like this and it will spawn just a few projectiles. Or you can hold down the button to channel it for longer, which will make it fire a whole bunch of projectiles when it spawns, doing a lot more damage. The Volcano sticks around firing its little projectiles for a long time, so it's another good skill to cast before turning into a bear. Now, the reason you're going to want to turn into a bear after using Volcano is that any slam near the Volcano results in it spewing out even more projectiles.
Okay, so that could potentially synergize with like a warrior slam build. If you like a fire warrior slam build, if you can make it shoot out extra projectiles every time you slam.
And if you thought that was a lot, then Rampage is even better, because it does 2 slams every time it hits the ground, and you can run around the volcano. Now, if you've been paying attention, you might have realized that this is going to be extra good with Seismic Cry, which we were using earlier to double the number of slams. So, first we're going to cast Volcano. Then Furious Slam till you stun something, Seismic Cry to get the double slams, then Rampage around while the Volcano spews out a stupid number of projectiles. This combo would have been even better if we'd remembered to cast our Lightning Storm first, but getting time for that seems tricky. It would also have been nice if the monsters were affected by the crit debuff that my wolves do when I first summon them. This is where some meta gems to automate some elements can
Cast while channeling. I wonder if that still
come in handy.
exists.
Here's a gem called Cast While Channeling. If we add Lightning Storm to the skill, we can cast it automatically while we channel a Volcano as we set up our combo. Cast While Channeling is an ongoing effect, so enabling the skill will cost us Spirit, which is a new resource in PoE 2 used specifically for these kinds of skills. If you look at the top left of the screen as we channel, we can see the energy building up to cast the Lightning Storm. So long as we channel Volcano for long enough, the Lightning Storm will also be cast on the same targeted location. Currently, Cast While Channeling is active in reserving Spirit in both our human and bear forms. This means that any channeling skills we use as a bear technically will also cast the Lightning Storm. We can actually do this with Rampage right now, but it's not the best because we would prefer to stack the Lightning Storm on top of our Volcano, rather than just casting it randomly as we're rampaging around. We're also unnecessarily reserving Spirit in our bear form we could be using for something else, so let's fix that. I'm going to go into the skill options for the skill and disable it in my bear form. We showed at ExileCon how you could use skill options to control which weapon set to use when casting skills, but you can also use the same interface to enable or disable which buffs you would like to have active in your different weapon sets too, without having to recast them all the time, and shapeshifting counts as a weapon set.
Okay, so we just heard him say shape-shifting counts as a weapon set, so that that kind of answers that question that I was kind of expecting it to work that way. It was just we couldn't really see it, and I don't know what type of, like, what will that weapon look like? What will it gain, like, bonuses off of the tree from? I know in the Druid area there's a lot of those, just they look like claws on the passive tree that say, you know, just straight up increases attack damage. So I kind of wonder if that's what those are geared towards, because it's not technically necessarily a weapon type. Like maybe you just get like an attack, and so you have to scale it off of like attack damage.
Now when I change to a bear, the effect and the spirit reservation goes away, and when I change back to a human again, it's back automatically. So, now that we have some extra spirit available as a bear, why don't we make our life a little bit easier by automating one of our other skills? This is the Cast on Melee Stun meta gem. I'm going to put Summon Wolf in Cast on Melee Stun, so that whenever I stun a sufficient number of
Is that still in the game? I don't know if I've seen that in the
enemies
game
while I'm a bear,
yet,
it will
actually.
summon another wolf. This is great because usually when I'm stunning, it's because I'm about to do my exerted attack slam combo. When wolves come out, they howl, adding the crit debuff to the monsters, right when I need it. It also helps keep my wolves alive and summoned at all times without me having to do it manually. So, last but not least, let's talk about the skill tree. At ExileCon we showed how you could dual spec your character so that different weapons can use different passives. Well, as I said before, the bear form counts as another weapon set for specialization purposes, so he gets a tree too. If I open my passive tree, you can see how I'm near a melee.
Okay, let's look at this and let's see. I mean, it looks very similar to what we have right now.
Damage cluster and a cell damage cluster. By holding shift, I can allocate these passives in my human form, and these ones as a bear. Now, when I change between human and bear form,
Okay, that's interesting. So, if you look at the top right there, he's got weapon set 1, weapon set 2, and then shapeshift. So, is shapeshift only going to be available to the druid? Or is that going to, like, how is that going to work for other classes, or are other classes not able to shapeshift? That's interesting. I thought it was going to be just basically like your weapon set 2. And now I'm wondering if it's even, you know, how that's going to, like, we're just going to have to see it.
Reallocate automatically. So, here we are at the Blind Beast. The goblins have enslaved a huge behemoth and gouged out its eyes. Now they're sending it in to fight you while they watch.
What have they done to this creature?
It's kind of funny watching this now because I'm pretty sure when we fight this in the actual game, like it dies like super easily. So sometimes part of me wonders, is it like the build that they have, or is it that they've just made the monsters like easier to kill? Because I feel like on my first playthrough, this was kind of what the majority of boss fights were like. It was, you know, took a few minutes, it was more strategic, you had to dodge. And I think on my second, like, full playthrough, or sorry, probably my third playthrough, even my second playthrough was like much easier, but the last one, it just felt like every boss was like instantly dying. And maybe that was just because I had better weapons, possibly better setups. I mean, I think they did nerf bosses, but watching this now, it's almost like they're not even 75% as strong as they used to be. It's like they're like a quarter of their original strength.
Your suffering ends here. Shameful.
And there we have it. With a little bit of customization, we have a build that can combine many different active skills to
What was
do
that
some
item
really
that dropped?
And there we
sword,
have it.
okay,
With a little bit of
so
customization, we have a build
have
that can
swords
combine
in
many
this
different
build.
active skills to do some really interesting effects. At the same time, your skill tree reconfigures automatically at the right time, and your buffs reconfigure automatically as well. You can even cast certain skills automatically. But we also haven't lost the dynamics of combat. Many skills interact with each other, and the ones you choose to use at any different moment depend a lot on what enemies you face or what situation you're in right at this moment. And at just the right time, you might be able to combine all your skills in one crazy combo, get some satisfying screen covering spam, and do some crazy damage. Now, these are just some of the skills targeted at the Druid in PoE 2. We didn't even show you the wolf form yet. There's a lot more to play and experience, and we look forward to letting you guys try it out when we go into beta on June 7th, 2024.
June 7th. Oh man, that was not how that played out, was it, guys? So that is a look at the Druid from last 2 years ago, I guess, and before they had pushed back the initial release. So we are really, like, they said that this was going to be in the beta way back when. They thought that it was going to be in the initial release. So I know they've made comments that the animation, they were in animation hell, quote unquote. So I kind of wonder if it was the wolf form, because when we see the trailer for the new video, which I guess we could check that out real quick, they kind of showcase the wolf form here. So it makes me wonder if the wolf form was what caused the delay.
Bites colder, but there are those who bite back.
I mean, the great thing is we only have to wait about another 2 weeks
Hi,
or so.
I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2.
I was really
To walk
hoping that,
alone.
you know, they would
Tonight
hint.
bites colder, but there are those who bite back.
I was really kind of hoping they would hint at, you know, like a new weapon type, like swords, axes, something like that, so we could get some more variation for some just melee builds. So we will have to wait and see what we get here. And that video we get on, what was it, December 4th. So we really only have to wait a little over a week till we get the reveal, and then about a week after that to get the actual release of the game. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, just how it happens to pan out for me, it looks like I do not have that weekend off, unfortunately. So can't wait to check it out, though. If you guys don't mind hitting that subscribe button again, really appreciate it. It helps me out. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And remember to give them the D.